Hello, my name is Alex Kravitz. I'm the opinion editor of the Berkeley Political Review, and today let's talk about sex. Let's talk about that nasty Santorum sex, and by which I mean his aversion to homosexual intercourse. Now, granted, a lot of people have an aversion to this, even if they're not truly homophobic. They just don't like the idea of two men having sex or two women having sex. Since the majority of people are heterosexual, it's not surprising, since that form of sexual intercourse is not their preference. It's difficult for them to imagine themselves in the position, so it seems a little bit foreign to them. But Santorum takes an active stand against gay marriage, a battle that has already been lost. He's on the losing side of the battle. It's not just that it's going to be lost down the line. It's that it's already lost for two reasons. One, young people don't care about it as much. That's why I would say it was lost even before it was started fighting. But the second most important reason is that states have already legalized gay marriage through both courts, which the Republicans accuse of being those the activist judges, even though the courts are just using logic. But then again, of course, this is the problem with logic. You can't logically argue that logic is the best way to make an argument. It's a tautology, so it doesn't hold up logically. There's really no reason to believe that logic is the way to make an argument, or that logic is the way people should decide things based on their lives. And of course, Freud would say that people make their decisions based more on emotion. And for Rick Santorum, his beliefs have a strong emotion tied to them, and there's no point, really, in trying to logically argue that there's a compelling legal reason why gay marriage should be legal, but there's no compelling logical reason why it shouldn't be. So that was the court thing. And then, of course, also states, just like recently New York State Legislature, have legalized same-sex marriage. In either instance, as soon as it became legal in one state, it was legal in the entire country. The battle is seriously already over. In spite of the Defense of Marriage Act. The Defense of Marriage Act is blatantly unconstitutional. Loving v. Virginia already determined that the Defense of Marriage Act is unconstitutional, even though the Defense of Marriage Act was passed many years after Loving v. Virginia. Loving v. Virginia was this couple, the Lovings. I believe they changed their name to the Lovings. It was an interracial couple. The two of them got married in West Virginia, where it was legal for black people and white people to get married, and then Virginia said that they were not going to recognize their marriage. And so it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that there were two incredibly strong reasons why Virginia had no right whatsoever to invalidate that marriage. One was that in terms of civil rights, you could not discriminate against people based on the color of their skin. You could not prevent people from getting married based on the color of their skin, which some gay marriage opponents argue is different than discriminating based on their physical body or their gender, even though it's questionable, really. And then the second reason, which is the one that is the key reason why the gay marriage fight has already been won, the fight against it has already been lost, that being, if a contract is made in another state, it has to be recognized in all the other states, especially one as important as marriage. If you think of any sort of paperwork that you've ever filled out, there's a form for single or married, right, or divorced or widowed, but it all goes around whether or not you're married. Can you say, oh, well, I'm living with someone, lived with them for a long time? It doesn't matter. If you're not married, then you're still single. And if you haven't divorced, then you're still single. Marriage is an incredibly important contract. Santorum and the other social conservatives are right to be concerned about marriage, since marriage is a fundamental unit of our society. The marriage contract gives you such privileges as you cannot be compelled by the state to testify against your spouse in court. But The fact that some states have legalized it means it already is legal in all the other states. The Defense of Marriage Act is unconstitutional. What people like Rick Santorum want is they want a constitutional amendment specifically to prevent certain types of people from getting married. They want big government control. They want federal government to come into states and prevent them from allowing people to get married. And they claim it's so that they can allow more democracy. This is their claim, in states that haven't legalized gay marriage, because other states pass things saying gay marriage is illegal. They say marriage cannot be between anyone except one man and one woman. The reality, though, is that those laws already do not hold up. Courts have already found that they don't hold up, and there's no logical way you can justify that they do hold up. Emotionally, though, people want them to hold up. And that's really their key flaw. The thing that made me want to do this vlog right here, though, is that in New Hampshire, some college students questioned Rick Santorum about gay marriage, and this woman asked how he can justify denying two men the right to get married based on everyone being created equal, and that being in the Constitution. So, he instead of answering, because he can't logically answer that question, he instead tries to do the Socratic method, which I've always been questioning the Socratic method, which is ironic, of course. But I question the Socratic method because there are such things as dumb questions, in my opinion. And, of course, you can ask questions forever and make it appear like you're intelligent, but the reality is that you're not answering things. Some questions have answers. Instead of answering, Rick Santorum asks, what about 3 men? Why can't 3 men get married? And the woman says, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is why 2 men can't get married, why 2 U.S. citizens can't get married, which is the current way marriage works right now. 2 people get married. And he says, well, why not 3 or 4? He's changing the subject. First of all, since I'm not running for any sort of Republican presidential nomination, I will say that socially, I don't see anything wrong with 3 people setting up house together, right? But when it comes to actually bigamy or polygamy, I have a logical reason against the argument. One is that historically, it's been a form of slavery. Historically, polygamy is not people freely engaging in these marriages, it's a man having multiple wives who are essentially his slaves. It's not always slavery. I could also make a compelling argument why in incredibly sexist societies, or societies where women have no rights, a woman would rather be a rich man's second wife than a poor man's first wife, because she's less likely to be abused. But anyway, that's off the point here right now. The main thing is that in terms of the United States, why shouldn't the United States endorse polygamy? Is because the marriage contract is so important. The marriage contract will lose some of its importance if 3 people are allowed to be married at once. And, of course, it would increase the number of green card marriages, and with regard to those privileges of marriage, such as not having to testify, I can see if polygamy, if you're allowed to marry 20 people, then hey, every member of a gang just marries each other, all these men are married to each other, and none of them have to testify against each other if one of them is caught. It would make plea bargaining difficult. It would really radically change society, whereas men marrying each other one at a time does not radically change our society, especially since men are already living together, which is the truth of what Santorum has a problem with, which is why Dan Savage, of course, hates Rick Santorum so much and launched that whole campaign to make Santorum's name a very interesting. Just Google Santorum. It's really strange that it still comes up. Savage's fake definition of Santorum, even now, as Santorum is sliding higher and higher into the media consciousness. So my argument is that the fight for gay marriage has already been won. It's relatively new in the history of battles. I mean, for instance, the fight against the death penalty is still far, far from being won, and it was started longer before the fight for gay marriage. But that's because we still somehow legalize this way of killing people, that we call the death penalty, whereas the fight for gay marriage is really already over. The people who are fighting it are just fighting against it. They have already lost completely, and I think I've got to end this vlog now. Bye.